Carl, do you think time travel's possible?
Well, first of all, we all are time travelers. I mean, we travel into the future 1 year at a time. It takes a year to do it. According to Einstein's special relativity, which is a description of the way the world works, I mean, it's true. You can travel as far into the future as you want, if only you travel close enough to the speed of light. You can't travel at the speed of light, you can't travel faster than the speed of light, but there's nothing in physics that prevents you from traveling at, 0.999 the speed of light. And then time for you slows down. And so you could travel 1,000,000 years into the future and be perfectly okay. The question is, could you ever get back? And there is the present debate. Can you go backwards in time? Is it permitted by physics? Never mind, do we have the technology? Obviously, we don't have the technology. An interesting thing has happened lately. I wrote a few years ago a novel called Contact, and in it I tried to imagine a physically reasonable way to go quickly to some distant place without traveling close to the speed of light. And I asked a friend of mine, Kip Thorne, who's a specialist in gravitation theory at Caltech, to tell me the best way to do it. And that got him working with some of his students. And so they developed a most interesting theory of wormholes, so-called, sort of quick paths through space-time that seem to be permitted by the laws of physics, although it would require a very high advanced technology, much more advanced than us, to do it. A part of that is that time travel seems to be feasible. And so it is barely conceivable that a very advanced civilization might be able to travel both into their far future and into their past. It raises all kinds of funny causality problems. What happens if you go back in time, kill your grandparents before they gave birth to your parents? Then are you alive or dead? What does it mean? These are called causality problems, and they are very puzzling. So I would not say we understand this issue, but there's been some most interesting progress recently because of the work of Kip Thorne.
Well, that really does raise some interesting possibilities, because if the world is going to be environmentally degraded, you could take a few friends of yours and we could go back in the past and try and see if we couldn't live with the Indians a couple hundred years ago before the white man came.
The trouble is that to be able to do that, you need such an advanced technology that with that technology you could solve our problems, or at least solve us. We may be more the problem than the technology.
We also got to be the solution too. Well, let me ask you this question, because we're covering so much ground in a relatively short period of time. You're an educator too, and there's so much criticism of the American educational system today. Is that criticism valid, and what can we do to improve our educational system? What needs to be done?
It is valid, and you compare how American kids do compared to kids of the same age in other countries, and they do miserably. I'm not talking just about kids in Japan or Germany or the Soviet Union. Kids in Singapore, kids in Thailand do much better in science and technology and mathematics than Americans of the same age. Our kids are not working hard enough. There is not an ethos of respect and admiration for learning. Certainly not on television. CNN aside, the amount of real intellectual content that appears on the mass media is very little. The amount of time kids work, the amount of homework, the salaries of teachers, the encouragement of really good teachers, all of that is in a desperately bad situation. I saw a study where high school kids in Texas were shown a Mercator projection map of the world, but with none of the nations with their names in them. A lot of those kids didn't know where their own country was. Could not pick out the United States on a world map. Some ridiculous number of them, 25% or something, when asked where the Soviet Union was, pointed to Central America.
What do we do about it? How can we improve our educational system?
One thing you can do is you can put a lot more federal money towards improving the education in the schools, which is, of course, a state function as specified in the Constitution. The Constitution doesn't say that the federal government can't help to educate its own children so that the United States will be in reasonable shape in the future.
Don't we spend more money than any other country on education by far?
No, I don't think so. Not per capita. I don't think that's right. And the ethic of hard work, the ethic of...
Now that money, I really question whether it's a total money problem.
Ted, I know many cases of very bright men and women who are coming out of college who temperamentally would like to be teachers, but the amount of money being offered by industry is so much larger than the amount of money that's offered as a teacher that for financial reasons they go off in that direction.
Do you think that problem could completely be solved with money?
Money alone won't do it at all. Not at all. It requires a change in how seriously...
Parents have to stress.
Parents...
Less watching of television, for instance.
Very important for you to say that.
Well, I mean, I say it all the time.
School boards and mass media. I'll give you an example.
More emphasis at every level on improving education.
Absolutely. Every newspaper in America, with very few exceptions, has a daily astrology column. Astrology is bunk. Astrology is fraud. How many of them have even a weekly science column? Why that disproportion? How much real science is there on?
Well, they say they're giving them, that's what the networks all say, we're just giving the American people what they want.
And that, you know...
And we're dragging ourselves down and down and down over the last 40 years. I know, I mean, I've seen